Hello, welcome to another episode of our Midweek conversation at First Baptist Sweetwater, where we strive to be the first responders of God's love. My name is Jerry Hendricks. I'm the host of this show, and I'm here with our co-host, T. Campbellton.
Hi, Jerry.
Or we could say you're the host and I'm the co-host.
No, I don't think so. You lead in.
We're neither one of us are very territorial about this, are we?
True.
Anyways.
We're not like ESPN anchors.
There you go. But anyways, good to see you today, Teek, and to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about things that are going on. This is a big week for us, or a much anticipated week for us at First Baptist Sweetwater.
Yeah, we've got tomorrow morning, we have Mrs. Dipsworth.
Yeah.
Is going to be here doing a story time with our kids, and that's kind of our first venture into that, and so it's exciting. All decorated up, ready to go. Got things for parents to do also, to be able to fellowship, enjoy some coffee and stuff like that, and some other surprises, but I don't want to put those out there now. And then tomorrow night, we've got our night at the pool, FBC night at the pool, and that's always fun.
And it's been a while since we've done that, and celebrated with hot dogs. It's National Hot Dog Month.
Yes, it is.
I think the official day, there's debate about the official National Hot Dog Day. But I do believe it's next week, maybe.
How is it not July 4th?
It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I feel like that's the one national day we missed.
And we're not speaking casually here. Teek and I are very passionate about hot dogs.
We love hot dogs.
Yeah, so it's something that we're aware of.
It's something we're aware of. We're judgmental if people don't do it correctly.
Exactly.
But I mean, if you're going to be judgmental about something, that's what you should be about.
Right. I feel like there's a lot of people that are judging us because of the fact that we like hot dogs.
That's every week.
That's so true.
You know, we had sidebar. When we went through Lent years and years and years ago, I gave up meat, and I said something about how I really loved hot dogs, and a person goes, "Wait, you consider that meat?" It's like we're no longer friends.
Well, I am looking forward to grabbing a couple of hot dogs, enjoying them tomorrow night off the grill. And, it'll be fun seeing folks gather. Hope that you'll be able to join us if you're listening and get this message, or if you haven't already seen it, we'd have fun out at the pool at Newman Park. So it's going to be fun. A sort of a tradition now, I guess, for our church in mid-July to meet out there.
Yeah, and it's a fun gathering. I mean, because everybody goes every different way during that time, during the summer. But I feel like that's one of our events that people are here for.
Right. And you do have some special games for your student ministry.
We do. Stacy and I were talking about them last night. One of them involves boogie boards. And so it'll be interesting.
That's worth showing up. And I always enjoy, you usually do some kind of diving contest.
We do belly flop and all that.
Yeah, so.
Take the whiteboards out there to be able to dry erase boards to judge them. So it's fun.
Well, it'll be fun. We're looking forward to it. I will say, I want to shout out to my daughter and thanks for the new mug. Nice. She's got back from South Carolina. It's good to have the family all back in the same location for a while.
Yeah, you've gone to South Carolina.
Yeah, and I go to Brownwood.
You went to Sweetwater and Brownwood.
Yeah, and Looters. I added Looters to my schedule this summer.
That is exotic.
How exciting is that? But anyways, things are going well. Sunday we had a good day of worship together and continuing our study in David. And I think, I guess there's so many ways you can look at the life of David and so many lessons learned from it. And one of the lessons that I didn't talk much about Sunday was just the way that we see David's leadership evolving as king. And I find it interesting, but that's a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and I enjoy kind of seeing life through that filter in a lot of ways. But
was there a specific thing that sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, for Sunday, it was just the way that, for whatever reason, the passage was that passage around moving the Ark of the Covenant, going getting it back in the hands of the people of Israel, and then transporting it. And they transported it by a cart, and then an oxen stumbles, touches it. I believe that's his name. I've been challenged by names this week, apparently. And
Old Testament.
And so, and then he dies, and then it goes into the history of how the ark was intended to be moved from location to location. That it actually, even in its creation, was created to be transported because it represented the presence of God. And so when you step back and you wonder, David had to have been aware of the correct protocols for moving that Ark of the Covenant, because it was that big of a deal. It would have been something that you would know about. But there's not much conversation in the Scripture about how he came to the conclusion that he would use a cart.
Right.
A completely different means for transporting it.
And was it Saul had made a pretty bad decision also to go in, and he was going to burn incense before the Lord? He was going to do something like that and usurp the position of the priest. So he makes a pretty bad decision, and then you got King David doing the same thing. It's almost like once they become the king, it's easy to forget who the real king is.
Right. Yeah, and that was kind of one of the themes, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, that this trying to understand life in view of an earthly king. But it's a very interesting period and interesting events revolving around that. I think where it goes, it's interesting for us in part because a lot of times in these longer stories we tend to move real fast. And like we did in particular, we didn't talk a lot about David dwelling in caves and avoiding Saul and trying to, and his friendship with Jonathan. We didn't hit some of the major themes early in his story in coming under the household of Saul. But these last 2 weeks and then next week kind of keep a story that's real cohesive, I think. So this week what happens is that we discover that it's not proper for that there needs to be a proper place for the Ark of the Covenant, so that it's no longer moving around. It's not in a temporary space or a tent, and so that's the transition that we start to see evolve this week in following this story.
We had baptism Sunday, so I didn't get to hear some of the things you said, but that idea of God's like justice in a sense of Uzzah being killed, but that, and I can't remember if Francis Chan, Eugene Cho, one of those two, I think said something about these sacred things that we don't understand sacred anymore, but God understands sacred and holy. And so though we see it as extreme that he died from just touching it, you're like, well, why wouldn't you don't want to let it fall. There's still that, with talk about the proper way to do it and everything, God still has sacred. And we need to recognize that and what holiness is, and that we are not holy in our own lives a lot of times, that we don't live that out as we should. And so it's a challenge of how you follow God in that. Right,
and I think it does give us some deeper conversations about the God that we see in the Old Testament, that sometimes it comes across real harsh or surprising, if nothing else. Maybe that's an easier word to get a hold of, to think about when you think about God and his people and the way that he guided them and directed them. But, very much so, there was a sacred element to that, and it had been created that way from the very beginning. And so it was violated, compromised, treated irreverently was one of the words that I read attributed to that. And so ultimately we're reminded that God, when God gives us himself, there's purpose behind that, and we want to strive to see those purposes for what God's doing, so that he's present with us. I mean, that was you look at overall the scope of that. That was representing God's presence with his people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
it's a good passage that we don't like. I think you said this Sunday we talk about David and Goliath and things like that, but we don't talk about this passage much. We don't talk about these, and even when you were talking about Jonathan and hiding caves and all that, I wonder how those moments shaped his leadership. Also, like those prepared him and influenced him to be king.
Right.
So, what did they speak into his life in that area?
Well, and the prophet Nathan also makes an appearance in chapter, I believe this is chapter 7 in 2 Samuel. So we see, the influence of God communicating to David again. in this process. And Nathan does make other appearances, and we hear from him some more. But it is, it's one of those things. We talk about this a good number of times, how one of the reasons that we like to use lectionary is it keeps you from using texts that are only familiar. And that would be the case where you would tend to skim across some of the highlight stories of David's life. Because I know when I first, a lot of times when I'll set a series, particularly these longer ones, I don't look in detail ahead about how they're going to have to be interpreted for our message on Sunday morning. And for sure, when I saw that one, I guess a couple of weeks ago, when I saw that text, I go, what in the world? Because the stories are easier to tell. And there's, we kind of have that collective, when that story's being developed, we have that collective understanding, and we continue to build on that understanding individually. But when I was looking at that one, I thought, because I'm not, that I'm not that comfortable preaching Old Testament text. I'm always very nervous and tense about it. And when I saw that one, I go, I don't know what's going to happen here. But I looked at it 2 weeks in advance, so I knew I had to kind of ramp up on some reading to be able to do something there, to get it to make sense to us. But there's always, when there's good conversation following a message on Sunday, that's always helpful, because the intent is for us to continue to think through those elements. That's a part of this purpose of this midweek podcast, so that we kind of stay on this track and linger in a thought or a message or a story for an extended period of time, knowing that kind of fits into this formation that we're helping people through.
And never mind, I'm good.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we've been, what we say earlier today, a lot of things off agenda today. Yeah, but it's been good to catch up with you, Teak, and talk about this stuff a little bit. Looking forward to Sunday and hearing more about the progression of the Ark of the Covenant. It's something that we don't talk about a lot about or think about, but it is a word or a phrase that we are a bit familiar with. We've heard it before. So look forward to doing that. Be sure and follow along with the readings. You'll find those in our social media outlets as well as on our website. So go there, find some of the readings, catch up with us, and you'll be ready Sunday to jump in with us in 2 Samuel chapter 7.
All right.
It'll be fun. Look forward to seeing you this Sunday.
See you then.